Japanese regulators are a bit ahead, but we know that they can be, pretty tight about most things. So we need to be talking about this to the ASICs and SFCs and MASs of the world. And the sooner we do it, and the more power we will get to our joint goals.
I think the major issue is in Europe right now, where companies like Zulutrade or Tradency, or with the new regulation of ESMA, we need to have an asset management license from this year. So you can't actually work with a European broker without having an asset management license. We applied 9 months ago. We're getting it, I hope, very soon. And that's the new barrier, let's say, for companies like us. In Japan, there's different regulation. And in the United States, there's no regulation around that. There's just a regulation regarding getting commissions. You have to get registered as an IB. But in Europe, things are changing. You need asset management license. It's clear. And I think that's good.
What do you think the concerns are from the regulator side, that they want the additional components added?
No, the regulator, they just need to be able to monitor what you do. They have to see, that you post real results, that you don't have bogus results. So they had to put us under a certain license just to be able to regulate us. And they chose this one.
So Leo, this is going to be the last point on social, Ryan. Leo, 4 to 6 times more profitable for the broker, coming back to that, is that because you're creating new volume streams?
Of
and
course.
Then how will the regulator view that?
The regulators don't have problem with this. It's not. It's coming from the ability to drive more volume, and in reasonable rates spreads, not 0.1, 0.2 that is very common in Japan, for example. You cannot make money from 0.1, 0.2 spreads. No way. So when you're using a service, the end user willing to pay. If they're willing to pay, you make more money. And it's a money that it's a win-win situation for all the parties. It's going out of the flow. You're not taking any risk. You're giving a service. And the regulator is very happy. I can tell you for the last question you asked is that we are now completing our registration in Japan, and we're going to get it in the next few weeks. I can tell you that it took us a couple of months to educate the regulator what is system trading, copy trading, or mirror trading. This is our product. It took us months. So it took them to understand the concept, who we are, what we are doing, how it works, where are the pitfalls, and they are happy with this, and this is what happened today.
Is there any response from the audience? It could be a question or like a statement. Sure. The mic's coming. If you can state your name and...
Oh, hi. I'm Paul Smith, Mobile Trading Partners in London. We built our first... Sorry, is that clearer? We built our first mobile trading application 3 years ago. LMAX distributed as their on iPad application, Android application. And we found that the pool of users is too small to have just a dedicated pool of social users for one broker. Our feeling is that the users want to see all of the trades, all of the activity all around the world. They don't really want to just see the people who are using their same broker. But our brokers, they want to have a pool just for them, which is kind of a bit antisocial. How do you reconcile that?
I bet Yusuf's going to answer that.
Yeah. First off,
could I just repeat the question for the audience? So you have a social trading platform. If you've got one broker on there that has 10,000 clients, only those 10,000 clients can see each other. What the question is, if there's 100,000 users from 10 brokers, how can they all see each other?
all right. First off, thank you. Great question. If you think about it, in the beginning I said that Lever8, Cyrix is a technology company. This is key. The ability to innovate and adapt new innovation is a function of listening to all of the FX brokers, creating an environment in which FX brokers look at you as a partner. And the way that we've been able to do that is by having a worldwide community. Okay, Lever8 has seen, just to give you some base numbers of growth, since July of 2013 to December of 2013, 100% growth in our social community, which is phenomenal. Now, that's not just coming from 1 or 2 or 3 FX brokers, it's coming from across global community. This also enables the FX broker to feel comfortable that their clients are going to be protected. Just as a small example, all of the due diligence data that is housed inside Zurich Social is all percentage-based, so that no one trader can see another trader's exact dollar amount or portfolio, as well as the ability that everything is nicknamed or avatared to protect everyone. So we're giving you, the FX broker, the advantage of getting cross-global community, as well as the ability to know that your traders are safe, in addition to the platform being branded for you. And I think that that's a key point that we took away from the FX brokers in developing the technology and continuing to add new features and functionality to it.
Thank you. Rajesh, did you have a response?
It's not a problem that's unique to the FX industry at all. So if you want to buy a ticket from Expedia, and you can compare what other people are doing on Expedia, but you won't be able to see what's happening on Travelocity. So do not expect any of the brokers to take this step and build a cross-broker platform. It's the responsibility of somebody else to come and do it and build so much scale that we have to join. So none of the brokers are ever going to invest in creating a cross-border or a cross-broker platform. So somebody else's responsibility to actually come and build that platform, and then the brokers will join if you're big enough, if you have that many customers. Yeah, that's the way it'll work. The brokers won't do it themselves.
Happy to do it.
All right, thank you, guys. Ryan, coming over to you. The rest of the guys, turn your mics off, have a rest. No kidding. What's happening with the mobile arena in Asia? How are you seeing growth? How are you seeing volumes? How are you seeing activity? Any challenges?
Yeah, so with mobile, the big challenge, and I think why it's, especially in Asia, the big challenge that we saw and why, I think now it's a very pertinent topic and why mobile is growing so quickly right now is, with mobile, one of the challenges was always being able to deliver a consistent, fluid experience for users regardless of where they are in the world. And regardless of internet connectivity and what kind of hardware they're running, it needed to be a consistently good experience for people. And so over the last few years, technology has caught up to the point where that's been possible. And specifically in Asia, you want somebody that's sitting in Hong Kong and somebody that's sitting in Malaysia and somebody sitting in Korea to all have a very good experience with your mobile platform. And so that's something that I think that we've focused on. When talking about Asia, we've been thinking, in mobile, you either have a mobile product that's a complement to a desktop solution, or you have it as a standalone. And I think they're two very different products. When we were doing the introductions, you're talking about using a mobile platform, to check in and see, did you get filled on your trade, or where's the market at right now on your way home, on the train or whatever that be, versus having somebody that uses it solely as their way to access the markets. And so in Asia, we're seeing a bigger uptick in people using it as their sole means to access the markets. And so it's kind of driven our mobile strategy a little bit to create platforms that aren't just informational in the sense to allow somebody to see where the market's at right now, but actually to understand the broader scope of the markets, what's happened for the day, and do some basic analytics through it as well.
So you're seeing more trade activity happening on the mobile as opposed to just reporting and view only?
Yeah, we're really starting to see a lot more trade activity happening in mobile.
All right, perfect. Rajesh, you got a lot of off-the-shelf, kind of like certain platforms have certain mobile applications. Your firm has focused on an in-house approach, and I've been to a few of the demonstrations. Tell us about mobile, particularly in Asia. What key markets are you seeing the more usage in, and your overall viewpoint?
15% of Omanda's volumes comes from mobile devices, and in excess of 50% of our active base actually uses mobile as a device to access our services. However, why they use it for is very different. And I still think that the day is a little bit far out into the future where, it will exist on its own. And right now it's being used to just check your positions, get a few alerts, check your balances and stuff like that. And most of the serious trading is still going back to the core desktop-based platform. That could change, and that will change. But it's a pretty secular trend, Adele. I mean, it's nothing that the industry has done. I mean, our lives have become mobile, the way we access email, so, share photos, everything. So in some ways, the industry is a little bit behind. I mean, the rest of the world started talking about mobile long, long ago, and it's rather ironic that we're still talking mobile. One of the things, the big mistake that companies do is to not differentiate on the user experience. You have to have something that's unique to the mobile, and you have to resist the temptation to put every single feature into the mobile device. That's never going to happen. And the customer may actually come and say, you know what, I wanted this button on the mobile, but the biggest mistake that a company can actually make from a user experience point of view, given that we build most of it ourselves, is to ensure that every single functionality that's there on the desktop platform or the web platform is also available on an app. That's never going to work. It's going to create a terrible, terrible customer experience.
Sorry, Hugh, what's happening with you guys on mobile, and how's kind of like your segment of clientele using mobile for what purposes?
Yeah, I'll start talking about sort of the broader side because we have a huge base of customers on the institutional space. The first thing that we saw was interesting is when we started toying around with mobile a number of years ago is that we started this for the retail space, but we actually got quite a bit of uses on the institutional space. So from our perspective, we got to cater to the retail traders as well as institutional guys. Certainly fewer number of trades coming out of the institutional space, but these are actually some of these dealers doing huge amounts. So we have actually a very different experience in that. In terms of volume trades, we actually get more volume on the institutional side. We get fewer, less in volume, but certainly more number of trades on the retail space. But the interesting thing is, again, we're saying mobile, right? But really, mobile is changing these days, right? There's phones that are small, 4-inch screens. There's phones that are 5-inch screens. There are tablets that are 5.5, and there's tablets that, the 12-inch tablet that Samsung just released. So one of the things that we saw was about that user experience, right? In the very beginning, very simple things, right? You just put the rates on so they can see the rate, check their orders, all being done. Then you take the mobile and you take the phone trading, you extend it to put it onto the tablet. So now you can see things that are bigger and clearer, but you're really not using and leveraging that size. So what we've been really trying to do right now is to see how to come up with the different types of mobile application that actually fully utilize the size of those mobile. And I think that's going to be the big thing. Right, I can absolutely see the actual institutional trader sitting in the desk with a large tablet and actually replacing their screen and be able to just trade out of there. And then you got the commuters who are taking the small phones. And I definitely agree with the previous panelist saying that you have to cater to the device and do not try to put everything else on there. It might look good in a demo to be able to say I can do everything I can, but once you take it into the world, they'll probably use about 5% of the things that you actually put on there.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing simple. When we try to plan our product for the next 3-4 years, actually what we have in the roadmap, it's only mobile. It's not desktop. And one of the reasons is simple, the target market. The target market for our industry is more or less the same for 20, 30 years. But what's happening is that 4 or 5 years from now, a new generation will be our target market, and he used to work with mobile and his fast activities, and we need to plan features and functionality according to this new target market that we call it. That's it.
Can I just get another question in, which is quite useful?
Can I answer your question?
After.
Oh, okay.
Rajesh, how do we create the best experience for Asian traders using mobile, infrastructure-wise, connectivity-wise? And then Ryan, if you can hopefully disagree and challenge it and add something.
I think one of the mistakes that big forex companies, Western forex companies, make is to assume that everybody wants it exactly the same way across the world. And my colleague from Japan will agree that the Chinese and the Japanese consumers have a different way of looking at their applications. And we make the mistake of assuming that if something works in California, it should work in Tokyo too. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. So we have to be very, very conscious about some of the local flavors that we need to have in place. Second thing is to look at these multiple form factors differently, as I just mentioned earlier. But most importantly is to ensure that from an architecture point of view, and I'm not a huge technologist here, that they're all synced. And it should not be a case where you make something on one particular form factor and it doesn't immediately reflect on another. That is something from an architecture point of view the technologists have to solve. So I would say localize to the extent possible. Be very, very conscious that the form factors are different and therefore need different functionalities. And the third is from an architecture point of view, think about scalability. Think about how all of them can function together as opposed to one platform at a time.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think that, so with the technology specifically, we've kind of benefited from some titans out there that have solved some of the big problems. So when you're looking at the Google, Facebook type companies that have been heavily investing into mobile web delivery of information, lots of information globally, there's a lot of technology out there that can be leveraged right now. So, we've looked at things like what Google's doing. We've looked at things that are being done in the video game industry as ways to try to keep the experience consistent. Because from our perspective, one of the most important things when somebody's using our software is we want them to know they're using our software. We want it to be, in a sense, consistent because from us, it's a brand thing. So while some localization is important, certainly, we never want people to question whether or not it looks and feels like our software. So what we've tried to do is keep things consistent, use technologies that scale well globally. Certainly, you're going to want localized connectivity in certain instances. But, when we've done things in mobile, we've built it in such a way that it monitors connectivity, adapts the way that it sends market data and so forth to kind of keep everything up to date depending on where you are. So I think that's kind of been our big thing is trying to leverage really good technology that other people have, built.
Perfect. We've just got over, nearly 10 minutes exactly, so we'll try and get some questions from the floor. I can see loads of hands up. We'll start. Any questions, guys? Any responses? Any statements, feedback? Everyone's hungry for lunch. All right. Leon, yesterday we touched upon the social going mobile. So, and Leo already mentioned that's where you're heading. So you're just going to be following the trailer, a bit like a firm that's out there. I try and avoid using names.
Sure. We experience about 50% of our users are using the iOS or Android application. I know it sounds big, but it's true. It's 50%. So the future is definitely mobile. Me as a customer on ZuluTrade, I never log in from my desktop, just from my iPhone, all the time. So the experience is better, it's faster.
I thought you were a customer of Trade & See.
Actually, I was. Yeah. That's how I started. Yeah. With FXDD.
Yusuf.
And he makes money.
I think to one of the points that you had raised earlier about the cultural sensitivity, so someone mentioned before that in different countries, people use their mobile differently. So I'd like to share with you some stats that we've seen. When we take the Japanese market versus the Chinese market, very interesting analytics with regards to mobile use. The Chinese market has a heavy focus on checking their positions and their balances, while we've seen in the Japanese market tremendous quick adaptation to actually executing on their mobile. This is very, very important with regards to how you, the FX broker, view the mobile. And I think that one of the points that we want to raise, we're all sitting up here looking at the audience, and I'm just counting the amount of people and the amount of time that you all are looking down at your mobile during this presentation. It's not an option anymore. As was mentioned earlier, mobile is an essential now. It's something that is an understanding need. The way that you address that is more from a standpoint of, do you just check the box and have a mobile app? Or will you make sure that the mobile app is sensitive to a point that was raised earlier about your brand and branding it so that you're not giving your brand recognition or your loyalty to a technology provider or to a software, but to your organization. So I think, one, understanding the markets that you want to address and how they use mobile and tablet is key. Number two, understanding that it's something that you can get value from as far as your brand and your look and feel, so that the user, when he's standing next to his or her friend and they're looking at their iPhone or their Android and they actually see your FX brokerage name. Hey, wow, look at that. That's so cool, ABCFX. How come my broker doesn't have that? So I think understanding the way that you can actually use a possible challenge as a benefit to innovate and to adapt. The last point that you mentioned as far as the technology use, I think understanding HTML5, understanding the ability to innovate in Android and in iOS is key. I think that the users globally around the world do not want to look at the same thing. They expect upgrades, they expect innovation, they expect that the user experience will constantly get better and better and constantly improve. And you, the FX broker, need to be able to measure that. And I think being able to have adaptation of HTML5 in Google Analytics is also critical for you, so that you can show your management the value that you're getting from social and mobile and penetration between tablet versus the mobile phone in each market.
I must disagree about HTML5.
Excellent.
HTML5 is not the technology for mobile, for sure. It's not mature enough. His lack of basic functionality that trading needs, streaming, real time, it's not there. The only thing that we saw works is native.
Slower,
Can I just
definitely
get a
slower.
response from the gentleman who built that platform? Agree, disagree? Because about HTML5, you can. You agree with Leo?
We build a lot of stuff, and we only use HTML5 on the desktop, and only that for end-user presentation stuff that goes on like corporate websites. Native is the only way to go.
I agree too.
Right.
The issue is, one second, is simple. We are a technology company. We'd like to have one environment that suits iOS, Android, Windows Phone. This is great. A goal, but it's almost impossible to do it.
Let's get
I-
some feedback on this.
I rarely agree with Lior, but in this case, I actually do agree with you.
Really?
We do the same.
Ryan?
Yeah, I actually kind of disagree in a sense. I think it's just different. I think native has certain advantages. It's from a usability standpoint, but at the same point, the HTML5 and the non-native application allows you to control versioning better, allows you to push features out to your customers without them having to download the latest version. So you can control the experience front to end a little bit easier versus a native app where you have different builds that are in different operating systems. Not everybody's updated their app and so forth. And so you can't push features out as easily. So it's just different benefits.
Performance,
we-
performance.
We just talked about
No way.
We just talked about providing social services, and we talked about providing mobile, how it has to fit the region that you're delivering it to, right? Japan might be different from China. China might be different from Singapore. That should be said about the mobile platforms as well, right? If you're using something like HTML5, the great thing is now you have uniformity across Android, across iPhone, across whatever else, but you're not really using and leveraging the features of those applications. So we tried it various different ways. Like the gentleman out in the field there, the desktop app is HTML5 for web-based, so it's easy to cross browsers. You get the same experience. While it's doable to take a browser experience and put it onto an iPad, for example, certainly it's not going to work on the phone, but to put it on the iPad is doable. But the performance is just not the same as you go native. I think if anything, it's more of a headache for the provider to produce so many different versions. But from a client perspective, the performance is certainly going to be better if you go native.
All right, thank you. Let's gather up our closing comments, so you'll have a minute each. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, Mr. Mush.
Hey, short question. In terms of tracking, it's obvious that you track the differences between the Chinese, Japanese, and so on users if they trade, if they monitor. But do you track, and this has crossover with social, about their location, their pattern of when and where they use it? So, for example, if you have a user that's Chinese and they're using it logging in from London, or if they're something else. Is that an important stat, or do you mind that, or something like that? Do you
I
see
think the
a benefit?
NSA might be doing that already, but we certainly don't do that for our customers.
So, I mean, yesterday in the Baidu keynote, so there's a promotion for Baidu again, they mentioned that Chinese users search for Forex words between 10 p.m. and 12 a.m. So is that kind of what you're looking for, some key stats of like when are they trading, what times, what days, what currencies?
For mobility,
Yeah.
We don't track it. I think it's not something. Maybe from user experience, something like that. Sometimes we see some behavior from specific regions or something like that. But as a statistic for business BI or something like that, no. We are measuring mainly the behavior and the very strange behavior of the users.
I think one point that we want to add, that I'd add to what you said before, is taking another variable, okay? Understanding which vehicle, how they're getting to the trading platform, web, mobile,